Hey everyone, and welcome back to today's Explainer. We are diving into a highly sensitive, incredibly complex, and really rapidly unfolding situation today. Specifically, the recent clashes of religious traditions in occupied East Jerusalem. If you're looking to understand the deep structural roots behind the current headlines, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to rely strictly on the reporting and data from the ground to analyze these events step by step. Let's get right into it.
So think about this for a second. What actually happens when deeply held religious traditions intersect and sometimes directly collide in one of the most historically and spiritually dense cities on the planet? We're looking at a deeply fragile balance in East Jerusalem. Every single action here has an immediate real-world impact. The events we are exploring today involve multiple faith communities, and understanding the complete picture requires us to look objectively at a series of recent incidents that have sparked widespread outrage, actual arrests, and some very severe warnings.
Here is our roadmap for the Explainer. First, we'll look at the spitting incidents. 2, the reactions and arrests. 3, we'll look at the groups challenging the status quo. And 4, we'll examine the overall tense atmosphere in the city.
All right, let's jump straight into part 1, the spitting incidents.
Now, if you've been online over the past week, you might have seen several videos that have gone completely viral, actually sparking a global scandal. These videos show ultra-Orthodox Jews spitting toward Christian figures and holy sites right in occupied East Jerusalem. And the targets were incredibly specific. We're talking about Christians actively carrying a cross, nuns standing outside of a church, and even spitting directed at a physical church doorway itself. You know, it's a very direct manifestation of religious hostility, and it was caught right on camera. And as you'd expect, the fallout was immediate. Religious leaders, including the top Roman Catholic cardinal in Jerusalem, are expressing deep concern over what they identify as a rising number of anti-Christian acts. These viral incidents, well, they aren't being viewed in isolation by the Christian community. Instead, they're being perceived as part of an escalating pattern of behavior that is raising some serious alarm bells for the safety and the dignity of Christians living in the city. Which brings us nicely to part 2, reactions and arrests. 5, that is the number of individuals, including one minor actually, that Israeli police immediately arrested following the viral outrage connected to these latest incidents. This really highlights the incredibly swift law enforcement response attempting to clamp down on the public displays of religious hatred that were captured on film, especially in an environment that is so heavily monitored and politically sensitive. But, the legal response is really only half the story here. The official government stance saw Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu formally condemn the spitting attacks. But conversely, some ultranationalists and settler leaders offered a vastly different perspective. They actually defended the actions, calling it a legitimate Jewish tradition with a long history. This stark contrast perfectly captures the highly polarized internal debate that is happening right now regarding these acts. Moving right along to part 3. Challenging the status quo. Now, I want you to picture this. On a single Wednesday, more than 1,400 ultranationalists and settlers entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex under Israeli police escort. 1,400. When a massive crowd moves into one of the most hotly contested pieces of land in the world, well, the immediate question is, what exactly is the objective here? Well, the stated goal behind this large-scale movement is to establish a clear Jewish presence in what is, fundamentally, one of Islam's holiest places. So this isn't just a casual visit. It is a highly coordinated effort to assert a presence in a space that has incredibly strict, historically sensitive rules governing exactly who can be there and what they can do. And that strikes right at the heart of the site's fragile, decades-long status quo. Under these rules, non-Muslims are indeed allowed entry into the complex on specific days and times, but they are strictly prohibited from praying. That's the rule. It's the established baseline that has basically governed the delicate piece of the complex for generations. But right now, that status quo is facing some truly unprecedented political pressure. Some parties within Prime Minister Netanyahu's right-wing government actively want to upend this decades-long agreement to officially allow Jewish prayer at the site. This represents a monumental shift from the established rules, literally moving from a policy of mere entry to a policy of active religious practice. And the reaction to this proposed shift? Palestinian officials have issued a stark warning, stating that allowing Jewish prayer at Al-Aqsa would lead to an explosion of violence.
just looking impartially at the facts, this highlights exactly how combustible the situation is. You have one side actively pushing to change the rules of prayer, and the other side warning that such a change is going to ignite immediate and severe conflict.
So, looking at how this tension is managed on the ground, day to day, we see some pretty significant physical and economic disruptions. For example, during the week-long Jewish holiday of Sukkot, Israeli police ordered Palestinian shopkeepers located near the entrance to Al-Aqsa to completely close their businesses for hours each day. And why? This closure was mandated so that ultra-Orthodox Jews could be given the space to pray as close to the holy site as possible. It shows how authorities are actively trying to manage overlapping religious observances and competing claims to these incredibly tight spaces.
Okay, finally, let's wrap things up with part 4, a tense atmosphere. As we've seen today, we are looking at a highly combustible mix of events happening simultaneously across multiple religious fronts. We have outrage from Christian leaders, warnings of an explosion of violence from Palestinian leaders, and active pushes from ultranationalist and government factions to assert new traditions and rights. And yet, somehow, a fragile balance remains in occupied East Jerusalem. Despite all the tension we just talked about, reporting on the ground notes that no serious incidents of violence have been reported in the city in recent days. Honestly, it's a testament to just how tightly wound the city is. The pieces for major conflict are all visibly right there on the board, captured in viral videos and political declarations, yet the immediate lid has managed to stay on. So the question I want to leave you with today, as you look at all the evidence we've structured here, is simply this. Given the rising tide of these interconnected religious tensions, how long can this delicate status quo truly hold? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer and for learning with me today. See you next